Hi, it's Laura at Aquamarine18. Thanks for stopping by my channel today. Welcome or welcome back. I'm here today to share with you some of the decks in my collection that I most associate with the element of water. This is a VR to the tag Watery Decks, started by my friend Corvin over at Tail Raven Tarot. I'll link their video below. And if you would like to do a VR, of course, please do. I would love to see what decks you associate with water as well. In some time, there will eventually be a tag and a video for each of the elements from Corvin, and I plan to VR to each one. I really like thinking about my decks in this way, and my practice is very elementally informed, so it's a great tag to respond to for me. In thinking about watery decks specifically, it was not perhaps particularly surprising for me to find that I had quite a few. I'm a Pisces. I'm drawn to water and all things watery. So this one was one of the elements I think that I will have the most decks to share with you. Others might be a little bit more challenging actually. But I've got a good assortment here, I think, of tarot, oracle, and playing cards. And I'll timestamp below so that you can skip ahead if you would like. So the first deck that I associated with water that I thought of is definitely much more of a kind of figurative or metaphorical association with water, and that is the Tarot of Architectural Objects by Tina, who's Queen of Wands on Instagram. And this one, as the name suggests, is an architecturally themed deck. It is a emotional deck to read with to me. It is very evocative. I think that scenery like this can really evoke feelings, which I associate with water for sure. You'll see that some of the decks I've picked are kind of very literally associated with water in terms of their theme. This one not so much, but it was one of the first ones that came to mind. There's something to me almost romantic about this deck. Some of these images of statues feel really romantic and emotional to me. And some of the cards in particular feel, really emotional in that sense. So like the Lover's card, which depicts the Taj Mahal, which of course was commissioned by an emperor to house the tomb of his wife. So there's a love connection there in terms of the Taj Mahal or this statue, which I believe is called Ali and Nino and is in Georgia. And these statues move, and I don't know if it will focus enough to be able to see. These statues move and they pass through each other. And you can see it on YouTube, and it's really incredible to see these move. And so, yeah, this one is one that I associate with water, more so for water's association with the emotions than for any literal reason. But it was one of the first that came to mind as a watery deck. And that's the Tarot of Architectural Objects. Another deck that came to mind for me as a watery deck is actually another architecture-themed tarot deck, and that is the Architect's Tarot by Yusuf Bushiri. And I think this deck is fantastic. It's one of my favorite recent additions to my collection for sure. And this one has a gilding on the sides. There are the backs. And I have to say that when I initially ordered this deck, I thought that I would experience it as a airy deck, given the palette. There's a lot of, the open white space here. But the watercolor artwork, I think, makes it feel very much a watery deck to me. And it's another one that, I feel like there's a lot of emotion in these images, I think. There also is quite a lot of water in some of the cards depicted. So it is also watery in that more literal way. There's lots of rivers and water wheels and water features and things like that in this deck as well. Though really, I think it is more so the watercolor medium and the art style that makes this a watery deck to me. Even though, again, there's lots of cards like this one with quite a lot of water actually depicted in the literal sense. So that is the Architect's Tarot by Yusuf Bushiri, another watery deck in my collection, which I'm just looking where to put things. Put that one over there. The next tarot deck I thought of as a watery deck is much more literal than the first two. In terms of its theme, I think it's very obvious why I would think of this one as a watery deck. And this is the Tarot of the North Atlantic. This one is actually a I Blame Corvin purchase in a good way. I saw this deck on their channel and I hadn't seen it before. And as soon as I saw it, between the theme and this art style of, this is all stitching, you can see it's embroidered with different buttons and things on top of it. As soon as I saw this deck, it spoke to me so much. It's a pip deck, as you can see here. And I really love this deck. And this deck is, of course, very clearly watery, given its association with the North Atlantic. So the deck features underwater scenes. It features sea birds and their feathers. Feathers are the air suit in this deck. It features lots of different creatures that are found in the North Atlantic region. It's a great deck. And of course the color palette is very oceanic as well, with all the blues and greens. And every time I look at this deck, it's just the amount of work. I cross stitch, so I can appreciate the amount of time and work that is in this stitching here. And this is a deck that, as far as I know, is still available on Make Playing Cards. I think it was a Kickstarter, perhaps. I didn't get it on the Kickstarter. I didn't hear about it until I saw it on Corvin's channel. And then I got it. It was like one of my most impulsive deck purchases ever made, because the second I saw it, it was like my Pisces spirit was just like, yeah, that's that's a deck for me. So that's the Tarot of the North Atlantic. Definitely a watery deck. The next one that I will share is the last of the tarot decks that I have. And this is another, quite literal, very obvious one why it would be a watery deck. And that one is the Tarot Sirène, which is by the Wandering Oracle, who are the same creators who did the Marshmallow Marseille. I'll just show for the Tarot Sirène with this great mermaid box. I made this tarot bag out of what strikes me as very appropriate fabric for it. And I had kind of wanted a mermaid deck for some time. I like mermaids, it's a good theme, I think. And the reason that I was drawn to this one specifically, though, is because at the time that I found this deck, it was one of the very few, or perhaps only, mermaid deck that I had seen that was quite diverse. And this is a deck that has diversity in terms of skin color amongst the mermaids, but also in terms of body type as well. There are lots of mermaids in here with lots of different body shapes and sizes, which I really, really appreciate. And I feel like the mermaid decks that I had seen previously to having seen this one were not so diverse, we shall say. I also really like the small size of this deck. I really like these shiny backs that have a kind of wavy pattern to them. I like the color palette as well. And so when I saw this one and I started to see the sample cards with a couple of the, the cards with the people in them, because it is a pip deck, so a lot of them are, are pips. I saw that it was a more diverse mermaid deck, and I was like, oh, I want that one for sure. So there's lots of little sea creatures in this deck as well, of course. And as a mermaid deck, of course, it's a watery deck. So those are my watery tarot decks. For Oracle, I guess I have 4, one of which is a deck of playing cards. And the deck of playing cards is the Fledermaus Workshop Poker Deck of the Drowning World by Conan Selesnik, a panoramic parable told in 52 scenes. And so this is a scenic playing card deck, we'll say, that has this drowning world theme, very much a theme related to climate change, rising waters. So there's lots of melting icebergs in this deck, lots of water depicted in this deck, considering that there's the word drowning in the title, it's not too surprising that it would be a watery one. This is the back that I have. I believe there might be a few different backs with different editions, but that's the back that I got. And this is an interesting one that I would say that you can definitely read, whether you know anything about reading playing cards or not. I would be a very, very, very beginner playing card reader. However, this deck has 4 very clear suits, which you can relate quite readily to the tarot suits. For example, the birds are a suit in the deck that you can quite easily associate with air. Smokestacks are another suit. And then you have, what are the others? Icebergs for water and vines for earth, which make the smokestacks fire. So you can really read these as, tarot minors plus quartz, king, queen, jack, if you like, which is kind of the way that I work with it, more so than reading it as a playing card deck, strictly speaking. It does have the numbers or letters in the case of the court in the corner. So it's a quite easy deck to work with. It's, as a playing card deck, it shuffles incredibly. So Poker Deck of the Drowning World, definitely a watery deck. Moving on to the next Oracle. This one is a bit of a puzzle. If you know anything about this Oracle deck, or if you have this Oracle deck, please, please, please comment in the comments to let me know about it. This is a deck which is the Water Drop Oracle. these are the backs. Let me see if that's a water drop there. And true to its name, it has keywords and images of water drops. So quite clear why this is a watery deck, because besides the keyword, the only thing this deck depicts is water. I think this deck is fantastic. I think that the keywords are paired with the images in a really clever way. But the reason I ask to please comment is because I cannot, for the life of me, find the name of the creator of this deck. This was posted on a website, all these images, and you could download them and then have a deck made in Make Playing Cards. So that's what I did, was download all the images and put them on Make Playing Cards and had it printed and sent to me. But now I cannot find the website where this was. I've tried all manner of search terms. So if you know where this is from, please, please, please comment, because I would love to be able to credit the creator. All I have for it is the plain white tuck box that came from the Make Playing Cards. So I really didn't do a very good job of documenting the site that this came from. I wonder if maybe the website is no longer available. I'm not sure. But the Water Drop Oracle, I think, is a really cool one. You know, I love reading with this deck. It has a really great kind of set of colors in it. It goes with so many other decks really well. The keywords are really expansive, you know. Lots of room for interpretation. But again, I don't know the creator's name. So if you know, please do let me know, and I will put it in the description box, and I will write it on my tuck box so I don't forget. So that's the Water Drop Oracle. I have two left here. The next one that I have that's a watery deck is a deck for Wonder Walking. And this is 48 walking cards and a pocket field guide by Amy T. Wan. And I've shown this deck before. I've shared a walk with this deck before. And this deck is a watercolor painting based deck. And I'm sure that that is predominantly why it is very watery to me. It's quite abstract in some cards. And then others have more recognizable symbolism, for example, like the birds here. And these are very emotionally evocative images for me as well, which makes me think of this deck as a watery deck. And much of what this deck invites you to do in terms of working with it, I love this little monkey here, you know, is to draw a card and then to take up the messages or associations of that card to be more observant and mindful in your environment as you go for a walk, right? A deck for Wonder Walking. And so I think that it's a deck that can help to build emotional and experiential knowledge of the environment around you. And these are the backs. The backs have a kind of labyrinth on them. And between the color palette, the watercolor artwork, and the, I think, emotionally evocative kind of keywords and structure and purpose of the deck, definitely a watery deck to me. And that's again the deck for Wonder Walking by Amy T. Wan. The final deck that I have to show you, I've definitely shown on my channel before. It's one of my favorite Oracle decks of all time. It won't be a surprise, I don't think. And that's the Saltwater Reading Cards by Laura Bowen. And of course, you know, the Saltwater Reading Cards are a watery deck. They have saltwater right in the name. And they're this beautiful light blue color in the borders and on the back. And they feature the sea life and ocean themes and sights you'd see in the ocean. And Laura Bowen is an Indigenous author who is from Australia. And I just love this deck. I love Laura Bowen's guidebooks. I have both of her decks. Of the two, this is the one that I've connected to more, but they're both beautiful. And in this deck, the artwork is made, if you can see all these little dots that comprise the artwork, the dots are made with the feathers of seabirds. So this deck just has, you know, water right in the creation process, in a way. In addition to having, of course, a water theme. And this is a deck that I've taken to the beach. This is a deck that I took to Mexico when I went there. It's a deck that I like to take with me when I'm by the water, even if I'm not by salt water necessarily. It just is it feels like a very summery deck to me, and I really love it. So that is the Saltwater Reading Cards by Laura Bowen, and that is my Watery Decks. Do you have any watery decks that you love? If so, I hope that you'll consider making a VR, or let me know in the comments. Do you have any of these decks and love them too? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Have a great day.